Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour. It's 10 o'clock on Thursday morning, April the 11th, the number 197 in this series. I hope you all have some stuff to show today. I've got some talk I need to do. Let me see. Saturday is Lancaster Club's open shop, 9 to noon at the Space and Coffin Kitchen Space. Anybody who's in the area is welcome. You can come and drink coffee. You can come and turn wood. You can come and take wood home with you. There's lots of wood there. Lots of miscellaneous tools turning up. We're really getting a mess of stuff that people are dropping off. It's time for us to have an auction. Then the next date after that on the Lancaster calendar would be the May 7th regular club meeting, and I'm not sure who the demo is. And after that, May 10th is the installation at the Amtrak station. And I want to let you know that we went in there the other night. We had 2 rounds in there. We organized all this stuff. We got all the boxes in there. We got everything the way we want it. We got a draft of the labels, which I'll be sending out to people to proofread. And then we packed it all up. We wrapped every single object up in green bubble wrap and packed them up according to where they go in the finished display, and carefully labeled the boxes with what's in them and where they go. It's a lot of boxes because we didn't want any dingage of the plinths. Okay, remember, Barry built 20 boxes. You got to mute that guy.
Yep.
Got him. Barry built the 22 boxes that the display wants. They're really going to be useful in the future. And Rick Atkins spray painted them a lovely flat white and wrapped them up in carefully wrapped and taped up so they don't get dinged. But I could just see the hand truck going over on the way into the station. So we packed them again in boxes inside boxes. So everything's going to get there intact. There's an awful lot of boxes, but they're awfully light because there isn't much in them. And we'll figure it out. So anybody in the Lancaster Club who wants to participate in the move-in, we're going to need a bunch of people. It's 11:30 to 1:30 on the 10th of May. There are no trains then. We can work peace and quiet. So we're going to do that. Well, I have the floor. I have a little welcome here. Actually, there's a fellow on here checked in from Alberta. This guy down here. I've got Aaron Darkas. Aaron is my first cousin once removed. Aaron turned up. He looks just like his grandpa too. Aaron's my cousin Sue's son, and I've known Sue's the cousin I grew up with, so I don't really spend a lot of time with him growing up because he's about 20 years younger than me. Although you don't quite look it. But anyhow, welcome, Aaron. Glad to see you. Aaron retired and took up wood turning and has gotten hooked up with all you dudes from Edmonton. So we got quite an Alberta contingent here. You want to say hi? You want to show us what you got going on back there?
Hi. Yeah, good to be here. It's a small world. I recognized a few people from your videos. I've been watching a lot of them since, probably November. And really interested. It's really inspired me.
You used to be a carver, didn't you?
Yeah, that's kind of what I got going on back here. Some of you might want to hang me or something for what I've done, but we had a large maple tree across the street in the school grounds one year. My wife figures it was 12 years ago, around 2000. Oh, well, anyway, at least 10 years ago, I cut down this tree across the street. And the biggest part right behind me here is the base. And when I cut the main burls off, there was 4 stems coming off of the main trunk. This was the main trunk. And when I cut it out, I ended up with a basket shape. And I just kind of went with it. And I was going to carve that into a plant basket. Now, there's a lot of burls on it, and I hope you don't want to hang me now, but I've done some hacking at it. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I've got some nice pieces, though.
So you're going to turn those burls, or are you going to carve them?
Most of them I'm going to turn, but the one big one here, I started gouging it out, just plunging a chainsaw into it. They're all chainsaw cuts, so it's pretty rough.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going to put a plant pot in there, or you're going to fill it with dirt?
No, put a plant pot in it. I'm going to somehow make it so. And all the other pieces, I'm hoping I can get burls or something out of them. It'll make a lot of pens. Just beautiful wood, though. If I have to, it'll make a lot of pens.
Very nice. Anything else you want to show us since we got you
I got
here?
a couple pens here.
Oh, you've been turning pens. Good for you.
Yeah, so the brown one, I'm not sure what woods they are or anything. So let me get a lathe here.
So you bought that great big lathe to turn little wee pens on?
No. I had all this stuff in my shed for years and years. And I did see your table legs, the fancy folding ones. I can't remember. I meant to look up what they were called.
I'll send you another video.
Yeah, you kind of inspired me for a few things there. I wanted to keep the length longer than 22 inches. I mentioned that before. I was looking at a MIDI lathe.
I don't know what the problem is.
And then, well, I came across this Riveler. That should pretty much. I
That's a
should know
new,
that one.
that's
I
a new
probably
line
won't
for
remember.
me. I never heard of that one. Is that a Canadian brand or where does that come from?
I believe they're. No, I'm not. I'm not sure. I think they were. I can't remember if they were the ones made in the Laguna factory or if that was the
Oh.
bandsaw, the Stallion bandsaws.
Yeah.
One of them was made by Laguna or in the same factory. So
You like the lathe?
Good.
You like the lathe?
I do. I've never used a chuck. Actually, this beer mug I made in high school was made. I'm pretty sure I just used a faceplate on that. I don't recall ever using a chuck before, so this is my first time, and it's going to be interesting.
All right.
Hey, Aaron, stand up. I want to see that T-shirt completely. That looks like, see why for details. Okay. I think
I wasn't sure if that was backwards or not. Can you actually read that?
No, I can read it. It's reading correctly.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
backwards for me in the camera, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that's at your end. Yeah, for us, it all looks good.
Yeah. But I gotta say, I'm really inspired by what I've seen on YouTube. And when I was turning a dozen years ago or so, I didn't have YouTube, and I went by books. And I'm learning what I've got a lot to learn and to do things right. Even just the different types of cuts. It's very interesting.
It's a good ride, and you've fallen in with a good crowd with those Edmonton dudes. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well,
Thanks for
welcome
having me.
aboard. Welcome aboard, Aaron. I hope we see you some more.
You betcha. Thanks.
And it's a regular morning. We got some hands up. I'm going to just go along the row here. Mike, peace.
Unmute.
Yeah. You're good. We can see you.
Unmute
You're
myself.
mute.
Okay. So this was my prototype before I did the emerging bowl that got Jim started.
Okay.
And then this was a prototype for an emerging box. And then I put the project on hold for a long time because this wasn't exactly what I wanted. So I got inspired recently, and this was more of what I was interested in turning. Now, this was not a design feature. When you turn it in one axis, then you turn it 90 degrees in the other axis, you have to be very careful of getting your centers oriented. And I was off, maybe at least an eighth of an inch or more. So it shows up, and I tried to turn this into a design feature. But this was just a prototype, just to, see if I could do it.
Looks like a little 36 grit paper would help you out on that one.
Well, yeah, at least. But if you get it off center, it's hard to do too much, because if it's off center, it's off center.
Now, is that hollowed inside, or is it just?
Yeah, it's hollowed. Yeah. So there was a individual in Germany that had a video on this, and Mein Deutsch is nicht good, and the Google Translate didn't work real well, but you could see what he was doing. But this flew off the lathe once because I thought I had it secured. And with the discussion we had, I think last week, I did have double stick tape on it. I had a board on each side screwed down, but somehow it still came out between those boards. and flew across and hit my bandsaw with such a loud noise. My wife hollered from upstairs and asked if I was all right, and it missed me.
So where'd you go next with that?
Well, I'm going to do a larger one.
Of that type?
It'll be featured in a future video when I get started on it. And I'll be very precise in lining the centers up. That's the key. And I'll be a lot more particular in securing this. This was rough sawn on a bandsaw, and I think that's why the tape didn't do much good. I just didn't have good surface contact. But this is red oak. It's fairly heavy. You just can't be careful enough securing one of these things, because this is a pretty hefty piece. It was green, still is. And if this thing smacked you, you might be going down.
You wouldn't be all right with a couple of screw holes in the back of that?
Well, I guess that's an option. Especially if you were going to cut it off, you cut the ends off maybe if you want to, or you could plug them with ebony or something. But you've still got, you'd have 2 holes on this side and 2 holes on the other side as you reverse it. So I don't think screws, frankly, I'm not sure if it's a larger piece, you couldn't have a screw long enough. It would be very difficult. You'd have to, use carriage bolts or something, 6-inch lag screws or something. And then you probably wouldn't rely on an MDF round backer base like I use. You'd need something more substantial.
Yeah.
Have you thought, Mike, about having the bowl emerge on both sides, or is that not possible? I'm trying to think through how you mount it. If you
Well, you mean have a hole on both sides?
No, I mean have a bump out. You have a bump. You have the bowl emerging toward you. Now, could you have it emerging toward us? No,
he wants to see the bowl emerge on 3 sides rather than just 2.
Yes, you could do that if you want to turn it over one more time. But then you wind up with a pretty narrow middle, or you've got to start off with a really, really large blank.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to scale up that much. The risk for me, the engineering of fastening it down, and the risk is too great if you get too large.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder whether you couldn't build in a hold down mechanism like a couple of slots in the end of that piece and hold it down with dogs onto a big faceplate, and then cut that off afterward. Yeah,
there are certainly different ways. The fellow from Germany had a special set of looked like black nylon or plastic jaws on a very large chuck that he clamped down, and then he had a block that he could remove to support it on one end when he rotated it. But he had a production process. I think he was selling his pieces, so he had a setup that. And I looked at the possibility. I thought about it of using cold jaws and make some wooden jaws, but I'm not sure I could clamp the thing down tight enough. I don't know. I'll have to give it a little more thought before I finish the next piece, which is going to be out of a 3x3 piece of maple.
Well, you guys are inspiring me. I'm going to try that if I can next time I get some shop time. So.
Yeah, wait till I get my next video out, which will be on May 1st.
Mike?
Yeah.
Maybe you would want to take the 2 side blocks, make them a little bit short, maybe 1/8 of an inch shorter than that stock.
Yeah.
And then put screws into the side pieces.
Well, the side pieces were screwed down onto my backer board.
But yes, but I'm thinking about putting a clamp across the ends on both.
Oh,
ends.
I got you.
And then screwing it in.
I did think about that, and that is a good option, I think, and that's probably one I probably need to explore. Yeah.
That's one that works when you have a piece on either side of the bowl. But if you had, like I did last week, you can use that on one edge, and that still doesn't protect you on the dome side. It still flies off that way. So. Well,
with what you were doing, Jim, I kept looking at when I looked at your video. you have the piece it's emerging out of set down from the rim of the bowl by about half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, right? And you turned all that wood off. And I wondered
That's
why you wouldn't bandsaw most of it off.
you could, but you're still gonna. I'm assuming you're still gonna want to have to turn it though to keep it round with the bowl itself. I
Yeah,
thought about that.
but you could, if you bandsawed most of it off, you would just be trimming. You wouldn't be turning off that huge amount of waste with the stresses good to go with that.
Well, here's the other thing about those side protectors. They help keep the grain of the wood, depending on what wood you're using, from splintering off. You know what I mean? Going when you're going across it, as you're spinning it to take it down to make the bowl emerge. That's where it gets tricky. So
I think
yeah,
Bill Tuskowski pointed out last week, one of the key things is supporting that bowl underneath it on the lathe so that you don't have a leverage point when it catches. Because what happened on yours, Jim, is your catch, it just acted like a lever with it because it was unsupported on this part that sticks out. So we're actually putting a blank or something under there to support it so that if it does catch, you don't have that force that actually tilts the whole thing out is a critical point.
well, Doug, I had a support under the very bottom, but it didn't come up around. It didn't come up around, and that probably would be a good improvement. Make a jam, I guess, like a jam support. I had a
Hot
support
glue.
under it.
Yeah, hot glue.
A lot of hot glue. Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. One needs a lot of hot glue to get this to work. A lot of
I deliberately made this one with each end about the same size, so I didn't have the off-centeredness of the the weight distribution being off, which would make this even more dangerous. I figured it wasn't worth the risk of making it 1/3, 2/3, or whatever. So it's close to being centered.
Well, you can always saw one end off after if you want.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
Hey, Mike, I was wondering. I've been thinking about this. Is there a way that we could measure an off balance a blank and know how much we need to put on the opposite side to counterbalance it?
Well, that's a physics problem that I'm not sure I could solve. Certainly, you could weigh the blank of wood and figure out how much is going to come off, or how much you're going to shift it, or whatever, and figure out what the distribution. But when you go to moving a counterweight further out, you're going to have a different effect.
Yeah.
So it might not. It probably doesn't take as much weight as the wood removed.
It seems to me your approach there is to see how it centers on the.
Exactly.
The heavy point will be down low, so you add weight till it doesn't. Then you record what happened rather than trying to predict what's going to happen.
I think that's the way to go.
When you put your counterweights on, like I've got a disc that I use for that, but when you put the counterweights on, I use a through bolt. So I add bigger nuts or bigger washers, but I have a through bolt that goes right through the backing plate, so you don't have to worry about centrifugal force. If you screw something on, it can fly off. But if you through bolt it, at least your counterweight's going to stay where it has to be. Your workpiece might go away, but your counterweights will still be there.
Now, I want to say, for anybody here who's mystified about what we're talking about, Bowman showed a video last week of his process in making one of these emergent bowls. So that's the kickoff here. That's in our last week's videos, and we're posting the videos concurrently now. We got them up like on Friday last week, and going to maintain this pace now. Just stay on top of it. Because Ziegler's out there making notes already. I don't have to write the blurb. So anyway, that's what this discussion builds from. I'm sorry to cut it off, but I could see some dumb looks out here. People didn't know.
Just back on the counterweight question. Sorry.
You go ahead, Doug.
On the counterweight question, if you put your piece on your lathe without a counterweight, and as John said, let it drop to the bottom, then drill the hole at the very top for your counterweight. Then what I do is I put the hole in, put the screw in, like you said, put the weights on, and then when the piece will sit in any position without moving, your counterweight's got the right weight on it.
That's it. Yeah. So, I don't know a way to predict that except empirically. No. You'll gain enough experience after a few of these things to get pretty close.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Yo.
When I started wood turning, I was looking at the automatic balancing that we use on our industrial grinders, putting it on the lathe so that as a chunk of the stone on the grinder breaks off, it automatically balances the grinder. They have such a product that is used as an auto balancer on tractor trailer wheels. And it's just a matter of getting one. And the first demonstration I ever seen of it, it was like a water hose ring with 5 ball bearings in it, with automatic transmission fluid as a lubrication, and it automatically balanced. And they took some weights off, and it counterbalanced. So I thought that would work when you're wood turning, but as you're peeling the wood off, it's self-correcting.
How do you think that works? I mean, what's the mechanism that can do that?
Well, it's a full circle with 5 equally weighted objects, which in their case is a ball bearing.
And then they can
because
move
it's
in and out.
lubricated, yes, it's a centrifugal force. So as a chunk of weight goes off, throws it, those weights go to the throw. So it's always correcting.
Do you think that's a mechanism you could make, or are you going to have to buy one to fool with it?
There's companies out there that actually make industrial ones, and they're not cheap, more than your lathe. But it's the system of what I'm referring to. And I tried to make one using water bottles and just dumping the water as it was running, as I was turning. It was too messy.
I'll bet it was.
Maybe you could just put a weight on a sliding rod behind your support blank, and then it would automatically, by centrifugal force, throw to the offside. So
Well,
we're getting pretty theoretical here.
I'll say. Okay, I'm going to move us along then. Very good discussion, and I'm glad to see these ongoing innovations in this idea of the emerging bull. And I'm going to be real curious to see where it goes. Garold Garrett, haven't heard from you in a while. What do you want to show us?
Right, let me share here and see if this works. Did that come up on your screen?
Here we go. We got it.
Yep.
Okay, from Doug's demonstration at the meeting a few weeks ago, this was my adaptation. I made a little weed pot, and the black portion there is about 15 inches and 3-inch piece of zebra there on the bottom. I started out and stained this piece, and I didn't, shoot, brain fart. There's really no character in the grain, so after I stained it, it wasn't good. So I ended up painting it black. And so
What kind of wood was it? Pear or something like that?
No.
Maple? It's okay.
Poplar.
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 Yeah.
So
Did you find the poplar difficult to turn thin?
Actually not. It turned much easier than I figured. So,
Nice piece.
okay. That's all I have.
What you got?
That's
Comments
it.
for Garold?
How big is the shaft on that, Gerald?
5/16 diameter.
Nice.
I'm glad to hear that poplar turned well. It used to be a favorite wood of mine because I was a cabinet maker years ago, and was a favorite wood when we were making a painted cabinet. And I love poplar, but I've never turned it, believe it or not. So
it turns very well. It's good for sands quick too, because you turn it for paint grade veranda stuff. I've done that a few times.
All right.
Somebody wants, yeah.
I just want to make a comment, Bill. I actually showed you how to blow one of those up, not how to make it finish.
Doug, you should know that I bit my tongue. Do you see me bleeding? I didn't say anything.
I can tell you that anybody who's going to turn down to 15/16 of an inch is going to blow a few of them up on the way. How would I know that? I'm going to skip you for a second, Toby. I'm going to go to some of these other guys and then come back to you. Okay, Sherry Wilets.
I just wanted to share the little widget that Bert made for me. We collaborated on, but by collaborate, I mean, I sent him the dimensions and he did all the work. So this is a store-bought contour gauge, sorry, but the fingers are not really big enough to be able to get a contour on a deeper object. So Bert 3D printed what 230 little fingers. Have a much larger one now, so I'll just show you. I'll lift this up if I can. So now I can take the contour of a much bigger piece.
Why would you need to do that as opposed to just drawing?
Well, because sometimes drawing involves measuring and I'm somewhat numerically challenged.
So once you've got that, can you like trace and get a good enough?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, the idea is to just kind of, it just helps me get a rough shape on some more complexly shaped objects, and then I can draw it, and then I can move it over to graph paper or whatever. But I was just, yeah, there were some of the things that I was trying to do that I couldn't get an accurate shape on. So this helps tremendously. So thank you, Bert.
Can we see the end view of that so we can see how thick it is? Oh, okay. And now what's the shape down there? I'm trying to see what the.
And so it's just like a 300 tiny little fingers here. Right. So each one is just.
So I'm curious about why the end is shaped that way, because the store-bought ones are straight across, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, well, the store-bought one that I bought is the same.
It's the same way. Okay, I see. Yeah.
So basically, I just photocopied. I took this red one apart, photocopied one of the little fingers, and sent that to Bert, and he essentially stretched the whole thing, and yeah.
Well, is the plastic that he used to seem to be as hard as the store-bought one? Is it similar in the way it feels?
Very similar, yes.
Yeah. So Bert, can you talk to that? I mean, what are our choices there in 3D printing with plastics and stuff? Can you get really good hard plastics?
You can, but the PLA is a common one. PLA Plus is what I use. It's fairly simple and readily available. And you can change the density of the piece. You can go 100% plastic, or you can go 10% and it'll have infill, and the printer does all of that for you. And so on the ones for Sherry, I made one or two at 100%. And funny thing is at 100%, it was too floppy and it didn't print very well. So I went down to 50% infill, and the rigidity, the way it does the inside, it made them rigid, and they're only 1.4 millimeters thick. So yeah, it was fun.
What is the infill? What do you mean infill?
The way the printer prints it. So it prints a base layer, which is the side, and then it builds a little triangular structure. They call it a cubic structure inside, and then puts a top on it. So that's like a bridge. It's like a bunch of triangles.
Right.
So it's triangles that makes it really rigid.
But
it's only 1.4 millimeters thick. So it is like the printer does all the hard work. All I had to do is just stretch it and say print.
So what caliber of printer is this? Is it like a $1,000 machine or a $10,000 machine?
$200 machine. This is just I forget what the hell it's called. It's an Ender 3. It's a relatively inexpensive machine. It's fairly slow, but it's pretty brainless. Like, it does a lot of things for you, and it's a steep learning curve for the first 2 hours, and then after you get one successful print, you're off and running.
So how long did it take you to do 300 of those? Come on, I need to know that.
My build plate was only allowed me to do, I think seven pieces at a time. So I built a raft of 7 of them on the build plate, and it took almost 2 hours per 7. So there's 230 of them, but it was okay. You just hit print, and 2 hours later you take one off and hit print again. So I was getting like 4 or 5 prints a day, because I'd get up and have a coffee and print one, and then in the middle of the day I'd print some more. It took about a week to get them all done, but
that's the downside of 3D printing. It just takes too damn long.
Oh,
it's
but the beauty of it is that you can design something, put it on the printer and go out and work in your shop. And by the time you need a break from the shop, you come back down and see whether it's finished and you start another one.
I know it's just like turning multiples. You turn one and you
Exactly.
turn another, and
Yeah.
pretty soon you got 100. That's just how it works. If you set out and say I'm going to make 100, you'll go crazy. You're just
Yeah.
going to make one and another.
Well, one thing I found with the 3D printer is I got it relatively inexpensively for when I got it, but I've used it for so many little things. I had to make things that I use in the shop almost every day, and it's just so simple that it's, I mean, it's another tool. It's another rabbit hole you can go down, but I use it for functionality. Like Sherry was, she had a need, and I thought 3D printer can solve it. So that gives me some excitement to make something, right? It's a collaboration. You just
So
make
what's
things
the-
that are functional.
What's the range of materials you can use in that thing?
This one you can go up to nylon, but then you gotta have to worry about all the different fumes coming off it and stuff. Like you can do ABS, you can do nylon, you can do a whole range. I don't want to go there. I want to keep it simple. PLA, I forget what that's called, what this stands for, but PLA plus. It's readily available, 30 bucks a spool, and it just works. It's simple, and I got to keep it simple.
See,
So,
you're
John-
right. I realize this is a little bit off turning, but it's really interesting to me because I'm just getting curious about it.
John, the other thing I would add there is you could do something on a PLA and verify it's the right shape and size and works the way you want. And then you can send it off to an online place and have them print it in aluminum or brass or a lot of different metals, in fact. So it's great, like Bert said, for doing prototyping of a tool. And frankly, I make a lot of stuff, and if it wears out, I just print another one. You know, it's not that hard.
Right.
Okay,
All right.
the question I have is, how many spools of $30 plastic did it take to make those 300?
That one it took about 3/4 of one spool. So it's they come in a kilogram spool. So by the time, even with the waste ones, when I was practicing and threw some of them away, it took about 3/4 of a full spool.
Oh, well, that's not bad.
No,
That's not-
no, it wasn't bad at all.
All right. Good discussion. We're going to move it along. Clifton.
There we go. Unmuted. So I'm really interested in the off-center turn or the emerging bowls and the things that are unbalanced. And one of the things I've noticed is that on a faceplate, the wood doesn't really slide out of it this way. It wants to do this. It wants to come off the faceplate. So I'm going to see if I can, you never know how this is going to work.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, is that my a peek
We
inside?
got you.
going?
Yeah, peek
Yes.
inside.
Okay,
Yep.
so I'm gonna go right quick through this because the goal on this one was to have no forms of attachment, no screw holes, no mounting on it. It was a block of white oak that weighed a little over 9 pounds. It's 3.5 inches thick, 7 inches wide, and 14 inches long. And I just wanted to cut a hemisphere out of it. So I put my little, is it going now?
Yep.
Okay, so I cut these things out and I just put them on there to see where I wanted them and how I wanted it to look. And here's my faceplate. And then I glued it on with hot melt glue, put these little, what I call flying buttresses on so that I could jack the piece side to side to get it exactly where I wanted it. But there it is mounted.
And
And
the chain is your hold down.
the chain is the hold down because it wants to come away from the faceplate, not slide along. Well, it does want to slide along, but the most of the force I've seen, it's trying to get away from the faceplate. So that chain is holding it down. I've used nylon strapping, wide washers, and screws because the nylon strapping is stretchy, which is kind of tight because you can get some fairly good tension on it. So there it is with some counterweights on it.
Well, hold still there now. Let's see about questions. Anybody want to ask about this? That's a pretty interesting setup. What did you have to do to get the counterweights up there positioned, for example?
So I cast a bunch of lead in the bottom of some soda cans, so they were all the same, basically the same size and the same weight. And I went online and did a lot of searching for static balancing and harmonic balancing. And there are some interesting programs that you can find to make that happen. But I got this up to 600 RPM with no problems, no shake, no problem. Obviously, when you're doing, the first thing I did with this was my Powermatic was I built I put my remote on a tether so I could have it right next to me. So, I mean, that was first things first. I did not want to have to reach around this if things went wrong. So, but the idea is you just can't, I didn't know I had it. I forgot that was there. You just can't make a mistake here. That's all there is to it. Everything has to be what we used to call bomb proof. And so, and there's the finished product, and that's what I was after. But it goes back to the idea of, when we do stuff like this, it's kind of crazy. There's no room for error. And as I said before, I can stop this now.
I'll leave it there for a second. I want to ask you some questions yet.
Did I stop it?
Okay. That's
Yeah,
all right.
you did.
Yeah, you stopped it. It's all right. I'll ask you the questions anyway. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Well, the idea is, as I said, we don't have room for error on stuff like this. And so you think it through. And as I said, you can put a block off down here so it won't slide off, which doesn't take a lot to keep it from sliding. But what I've always found is it really wants to do this. It wants to come away from the faceplate. That's why I put the strapping on it. And I think the emerging bowls, you could do the same thing. Obviously, I don't think you need chain, but if you had some nylon strapping and some some washers, so the screw wouldn't pull out of the nylon strapping, you could easily screw that on either side, and it would give you really a lot of tension to hold that against the faceplate.
I can see that, and I can see that the chains especially would hold it very rigidly as well. That's not a bad solution.
Clifton, the only challenge with strapping is the blank I started with. I wanted all of that 6-inch length. I couldn't cut any off the end, and because I'm shaving it down on the lathe, I can't put any strapping across the blank.
That is true. I can follow that.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the other fun part of turning is that every challenge that you get to this stage and you say, okay, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. And you go down the list. But when you hit that ON/OFF switch, you have to know that it's going to work.
It's, by the way, it's a beautiful piece of art.
It is.
I even I don't know if you did anything to where the dried cracks were in the piece that were on the perimeter of the bowl. Did you darken them, or is that just the way they came up?
No, that was just the way it came out.
Like, I love that upper edge there. Is that all the way around, maybe?
Yeah, pretty well. No, you mean like these little guys right here?
Yep.
Yeah. So those were end cracks, and it's not quite so much here. I put more. This was actually a piece accepted by the AEW and sent to their one of their shows. But so I took this piece before it was done. I really wanted this as glossy as I can, so I had a few more coats on. And this piece of wood was in a laydown yard in an industrial area, and it just used for a jack stand or a wheel chock or whatever it was for. And one day it ended up in the back of my truck and followed me home. So,
So-
I don't know what it is, but I love these little holes. As you say, I love these cracks. And I had it, I just didn't want any mounting holes on it. So
So this gray plate below it, that's a plinth that you made to hold it up? I mean, that's part of it as a sculpture?
this is a this is a piece of Corian. I have one little peg in it, and on the back of this, I turned a dowel that's only about maybe an inch long. So it rests on that dowel is in that hole, and it just leans on here, and it's just like a little easel.
Okay, that's what I'm interested in, partly because by doing that, you make it into a sculpture as opposed to a candy dish lying on the table.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I didn't want a candy dish. This thing has had a hard life, and I just wanted to it to out in the rain and the sun and the snow and kicked around, and like I said, one day it just followed me home. So I wanted to give it a place of honor.
Funny how that works.
Hey, Clifton, did you have to do anything to clean it up, like power wash it or something?
I just took I did not take a wire brush to it. I think it was just something like maybe a little nylon vegetable brush. But no, I did not go crazy cleaning it up, because some of this could have gotten taken away, and there's a big dent here, little rusty area, but no, just the way you see it.
Very cool piece. Very cool piece.
Thank you.
Thank you,
But
Clifton.
as I said, it's the mounting it on there, and we do stuff that can be considered a little crazy sometimes. So, like I said, when you hit that on switch, you have to know that it's gonna work.
Hey, I'm guessing you were part of a motorcycle gang, though. That chain looks like it came right off of a motorcycle guy.
This is from my wallet, keeps my wallet in my pocket.
Thanks a lot, Clifton. Ernie Conover, hadn't seen you in a while. Good morning. You're muted. You're still muted.
Oh, there, I
There
unmuted
you go.
myself. Yes,
There you
I've
go.
been, and I sort of would like to share some exciting news with everybody, and I'm going to share a screen to do that. There. And that's that John Kelsey, I got the word yesterday in my Furniture Society newsletter, but he has been presented with, or will be presented with, an award of distinction for his contribution to furniture making throughout his lifetime. It's a prestigious award, and he's in there with a lot of prestigious people that go back over a long time. But I'd just like to say kudos, John, and I couldn't think of anybody more deserving.
Amen.
Thank you, Ernie. I did not set that up. I didn't realize that's what you wanted to do. I would have not gone to you if I knew that.
I knew that, and so I just snuck up on you.
Well done, John.
Anyway, thank you all. That was it was.
I'll put the URL to that page in the chat here in a second.
When I look at the list of other people who won that award, they're my heroes my whole working life, and I feel quite shy to be placed among them. And then I realized that what it's really for is being platoon leader for a whole lot of other people. So it's I'm accepting this on behalf of legions of inky wretches laboring in the trenches of the magazine and book publishing industry.
Yeah, you're up there with Gary Bennett and Wendell Castle. I mean, there's just
it's yeah.
And so
Anyway.
you are in the pantheon now.
Thank you. Ziegler, you're up. And you're also muted.
Had to find my mouse.
Yeah, gotcha.
So you told me that I wasn't allowed to tell anybody that. So thanks, Ernie, for mentioning it. Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
Uh, so Patty's going down to see her mother next week for her 91st birthday. I coined the phrase she's 90 cent, and she's going to have a rap album. Now she's going to have to be 91 cent. So I took another piece of walnut that we got at Johnny's and made this little natural edge bowl for her.
Sweet.
Nothing quite as risky as what we've been seeing, all this turning stuff with chains and what have you. It was just a little.
But this is, I mean, no, what I'm seeing though, because I know you, I'm seeing a real progression in your ability to do these things.
Oh, well, thanks. Patty was disappointed that I turned the bass off, but frankly, when I kind of jam chucked it, I didn't get a very good bass, so I just sanded the bass off and made it a little rocky thing. But it, the thickness is pretty good, so it feels good in the hands. It's it's a nice, comfortable thing, and she's probably going to stick it on her dining room sideboard and where she never goes with everything that she's in the dark dining room that she doesn't use anymore. But at least I think she'll appreciate it. And just to follow up, nothing to do with turning, but Bert was talking about, you're all talking about doing 3D printing and not having to be at the printer while it's doing that. Well, John saw my lathe setup and my laser setup. So while I was turning that, I burned this ridiculous little Wessel Way. She lives in Wessel Way outside of Waynesville. A newsletter for her on the laser while it was I was making that little walnut bowl.
What did you print that on? Or laser? What did you burn that into?
It's just a piece of I think it's 1/8" basswood.
So it's plywood.
Yeah, it's a little piece of plywood.
And that's like laser pyrography on there.
Exactly. she has a good sense of humor. She calls Patty up and she gives her the Waynesville Gazette News. So I just made up a fake newsletter for her. So
there's your answer, John.
Yeah. Amazing stuff.
Anyhow, so that was it.
Okay, thanks, John.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Toby.
I have a few things to share. Share screen. Okay, I think it's this one.
We ain't quite there. There we go. Now we got it.
This is yep, blue box elder. I thought this one was really interesting with this web pattern sort of in the back of it here. This is let me see, 9 inches by 4 inches. Couple different views.
That just blue, or you have other colors in that?
I just put blue on this. The other colors that are there were naturally in the wood. Oh wait, there is some red in there, I think. Sorry. Yeah, the red from the flame. I dyed the red first and then put blue over the whole thing. This is the bottom of the bowl.
This is the one that blows away that one. Man, it's awesome, Toby. I think you posted that on Facebook, and I love this view. This view. This one is the one that's really awesome. So
yeah, there's a lot going on in there.
Yeah, yes, there is. I still don't see how you get blue to just cover the main grain, but not get into the red and the cracks and all that stuff. That's the art of what you're doing right there. So,
but I think because it's so dilute, when I put the red on first, the red is more concentrated. So when I put blue over top of it, the blue just gets lost in the red, so you don't really see it. And the same along all the cracks and whatnot. The wood is so porous that the blue just soaks right in, and it doesn't stay on the surface and show as blue.
Well, this is one time I didn't think you had diluted your blue very much, because it's really showing as blue on the picture.
Well, I think I did put 2 coats on, but it's still fairly dilute.
Neat. Very nice.
This one's this is maple. It's 6 by 5.5. No, 5 by 6.5.
Now, I like the subtlety of this one. I appreciate the blue, but I like that this is not blue. I mean, or what color is it on down there anyhow?
This is blue also, but because of the natural color of the wood was sort of this, whatever's on the rim here, whatever color you want to call that, tan color, the blue just came out this shade. Probably if I'd put another coat or two of blue on, it would have been deeper color. But like you, I liked it how it looked like this.
Now, do you sand between coats, or you just apply them? And you do no surface treatment after you apply a coat?
Right. Just put the coat on, let it dry, and then determine whether I want to put another coat on or not.
And no sanding or anything in between. Okay.
Nope, no sanding.
So how did you keep the red in the previous one from getting areas you didn't want it?
Oh, I used just in this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just use a small brush, and you have to get a little technique to, smear it out so it looks kind of natural. And then when you put the second coat of blue over top of it, they kind of blend together so it doesn't look so harsh.
I've got a big plank of curly horse chestnut that I'm going to try and turn some platters out of, and it's all curl. So I'm going to have my dye adventure with that stuff.
Ah, good luck. That should be fun. Maybe try on a small piece first and practice a little.
Oh yeah, I got a 12-foot plank. It's about this 12 inches, 15 inches wide. So lots of space for practice on that one.
Yep.
This is the one we just saw. Yeah.
Toby, I think you just made a comment that triggers me. I think you understand how colors on top of each other blend and affect each other, and that's also part of this art you're doing. I look at it and I go, okay, you apparently can understand what's going to happen when you put blue over top of that red or something. So,
well, it's all from trial and error, and that's how you learn. So,
okay,
yeah, for sure.
This one's the same wood, maple, just a different color red this time.
I like that very much. That, yeah, very pretty.
Wow. Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Toby, you've mentioned this before, but is all of this brushwork when you're putting these dyes on?
I just wash it over. I don't put the color where I want it. I just brush the whole thing, just like slather it on.
Right, but this isn't any like airbrush or anything like that. This is all hand applied with a brush.
Yes. If you did it with an airbrush, it would be hard to keep it away from the rim here. But if that didn't matter, you could just airbrush it on, sure.
No, I really like the look of it. I think that that the whole idea is, we want to get it done so fast, and what's the quickest way? Airbrush, and that's not the best way. It's hand apply looks really good. I'm gonna have to do that, like John said. I'm gonna have to give this a try.
Yeah, give it a try. It really doesn't take long with the brush. I mean, you just, and 5 minutes, you got the inside and the outside done, and you let it dry.
Toby, what are you using for coat over the stains?
As a clear coat, the Krylon triple thick clear coat, they call it.
Wow.
It's some kind of acrylic spray.
Rattle can acrylic.
Yeah, out of a rattle can. And
Toby,
you were talking. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to you about getting a nice diffused light, because I think your pieces would even shine better if they didn't have the dark shadows around them. So,
I don't have a good photography setup. I have one light and my backdrop, and sometimes I use a little reflector board. But
one light and a bounce board is all you really need, actually.
Bounce board would help on the left-hand side if the right's on the right. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, go ahead.
It depends on the gloss too. Sometimes I hold that bounce board up here, and you can see it and like it's a mirror here on the side.
Yeah.
So then I have to adjust or not use it at all. Depends on the piece and what angles are.
So what's the story?
This is poplar that you were talking about before. Jim,
And
you wanted to turn some, oh, go ahead.
And what's the dye color? How did you get that effect?
This one I used blue and red.
Huh.
And they just showed up certain areas and certain areas they didn't. I can't control that, but that's part of the experiment to see. They all just blend together like that.
Where'd you find spalted poplar? I've never seen it.
Oh, somebody's tree blew down and I cut some pieces and it was just sitting out in the yard. And
there it was.
By the time I got to it, it was already spalted.
I love that effect. I think that's like an ombre effect. It's very hard to achieve with watercolors.
Yeah, John, you're absolutely right. This is just some of the classiest art pieces that I've seen.
And this area over here that's kind of green and yellow, I put the dye on the whole piece. It just didn't soak in over here like it did on this side. So you end up with different shades of each color. Again, experimenting, see what happens.
Is that the same piece?
Yeah, that's the bottom of that piece.
I'd like to see the top-down view again for a second. The one before this. Okay. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
And this is the final piece here. This was maple also. And it just came at a different angle. This was a cutoff piece from another bowl. And it was like a wedge shape, but I thought, well, I could get a bowl out of this. It's 5.5 by 2 inches, but it really has some neat figure that showed up.
Wow. Yeah, I'll say.
I guess if it doesn't work quite like you want, you can just leave the foot on and sand her back on the lathe and then start again, huh?
You could, but I never do that. I always finish the piece and then dye it, and whatever comes out, that's what I have.
Okay.
But like he says, he's got a lot of experience. You know, you learn what's likely to happen, and then you get surprised. It's just amazing. Oh, that's a gorgeous shot.
Yes. That's the last of it.
All right.
Thanks for watching.
Any other questions for Toby? Questions and comments?
Toby's going to be at the Nittany Valley Woodturners next month.
All right.
What's the demo going to be?
I'm going to dye. First, I'm going to turn a natural edge bowl, and then I'm going to dye something that I've previously done. So it's kind of 2 demos in one.
Very good. And Ken, when is that going to be? And would you be okay with guests?
We definitely be okay with guests, and it's going to be the first Wednesday of the month, so it's going to be the 1st of May.
Very nice.
And it'll be from we have a little social starting at 6:30, and then at 7 o'clock we start the presentations and in the meeting, and it goes to about 9. And if we have a good demonstrator, it may go to 9:30. And it's at the Rivet Discovery Space in State College, Pennsylvania.
Very good.
Hey, Toby, just bounce your light that you have on the right off the ceiling, a white ceiling or a white card. You'll have a huge improvement right away just with that technique, a bounce light. So
yeah, thanks. I'll play around with it, see what I can do.
Yeah, your stuff's so lovely. Hey, I want to see it even better photographed. So
I should take a couple pieces to a professional photographer I know and have them do it and see what is actually attainable.
You could take him down to Bowman's place and have him do it. He's a professional photographer.
Oh, but he'd have to leave him here then.
Well, money would help with that.
No.
Is Stuart still here, Stu? Or have your iPad's just on with your hand up?
Yeah, just thought I'd bring this up for you, John. You asked me to re-show this. I turned this rough. It's a piece of elm that I did. Oh, it's at least 6 months ago, and you were wondering how it was going to turn out when I went to do the bottom of it. Eh? Do you remember it?
Yes, I do indeed.
Okay, well, I finally finished it yesterday. I did finish the bottom, and I was quite surprised it really didn't warp anywhere too far at all, and it was it actually turned out okay. I'm not overly crazy about the color that I used on it, but it's something different. And, I'm going back to off center and out of balance stuff to turn. When you do one of these things, everything's out of balance. And I don't use a counterweight in any sort. I just nail it on there as best I can and turn it a little slow till I get the rough done and get it kind of halfway balanced. And I crank the speed up a little bit, and is what I end up with. But it's an experience turning one of these things, and you find out about off centers and counterweighting and stuff if you get into it.
Is your finish on that a flood coat of epoxy?
Yes, it is. I did about 4 coats of flood on this, and it could have actually done with one more, but I just got tired of working on it and I left it. It's really not a total disaster, but it's I think it turned out pretty good.
Now, after those flood coats, do you do anything to get the buff up the shine, or does it just come out like?
I've done nothing. It's straight flood. That's it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
I got a couple other pieces here. If I got a second, I could just.
Yeah, we'll take another second or two. It is 11 o'clock, and we'll check off after Go ahead, show us.
I did another little maple box with a screw lid.
You hand chasing those?
Sorry?
Are you hand chasing those threads?
No, I turned that with my threading jig.
Okay.
Yeah, one I got from Dave Campbell.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Another one that I did is another piece of elm. And the nice thing about this is the burn line on the flat surface.
Yeah.
I've always had trouble with getting a decent burn line. I tried something new. And what it is I took a piece of piano wire, made a loop out of it and held it with a pair of ice grips and stuck it in there. And it actually worked very good. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I tried Formica before, and it seems to take a long time to get the burn, and it flares out and it bleeds out. It doesn't really give you a sharp, clean burn, but I found this to be successful. And I just did a little bit of color, and I also did a little bit of Lichtenberg on it. So.
And what's the color? What are you using?
That coloring is a pencil, a coloring pen. Brian McAvoy uses them. That's where I got the idea. It's Ohu. It's a weird name, but there's a package. I got 160 pieces for about $60 on Amazon. They're cheap as hell. And if you've seen any of the stuff that Brian has done, that's all he uses for coloring, and it's very impressive. I've been very successful with the colors that I've used. I like how they work, and it seems to be pretty good for doing what we do.
Questions for Stu before we wrap it up?
Stu, did you use a point tool before you used your burn wire on the flat surface?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Did you use a point tool or anything else to make the line before you burned it in?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I just used a diamond point or and something with a point. The corner of a skew will even do it, but just put a light dent in there, basically.
All right. Thank you all. Another very interesting Woodturners coffee hour. We'll see you all next week.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. See you all next week. Take care.
Have a good week.
Take care.
Bye.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.